I have a tough time feeling proud of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to think about that with you for a couple minutes. Yeah, I just have a really tough time feeling people are always like, you should feel proud of yourself, and it's really tough for me to do that.
Well, pride is a cardinal sin, and there's a reason for that. And there's a reason that pride goes before a fall. And I don't think you should be proud of yourself. I don't think that's the right terminology.
Okay.
And I think that's a place where our culture has really fallen off the rails. It's like, you should be convinced in your heart that you're doing the best you can with what you've been given, right? And hopefully that'll make you less anxious and it'll make you more hopeful. But, you should have the same kind of regard for yourself that you have for someone that you love. And that's not pride. It would be lovely if you could orient your thoughts to yourself so that you could allow yourself to be pleased if you thrived. It's not pride. It's a recognition
say it again.
of,
it would be nice if I
could orient yourself to yourself so you would be pleased if you thrive. Do you imagine you have a son? You want your son to do well.
Oh yeah, I already want him to do well, and he doesn't even exist.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, that's the attitude you should have towards yourself too. Is that you should also strive. Look, if your son goes out and plays a soccer game, you want him to do well. You don't want him to be arrogant and prideful, and you don't want him to be the star at everyone else's expense.
Yeah.
You want him to do well when he deserves to do well, and you want him to deserve to do well. Well, that's the attitude you should have towards yourself. It's like you should set yourself up so that if things are good for you, that's good. Now, you should be grateful about that, right? And you should be amazed that it's happening, given how many things can go wrong. You should allow yourself the luxury of success, right? But then you should also hope for that for everyone else. It's like, well, we could set up the world so that we had life more abundant, and everyone was successful. And we should treat ourselves as if we're the sorts of creatures for whom success is acceptable, right? And we do have doubts about that because we're flawed deeply, we're mortal and we're vulnerable and we're subject to suffering and we're ignorant and we make mistakes. And it's easy to think that a creature like that deserves nothing but, say, unending punishment and misery, but I think you give yourself the benefit of the doubt like you do someone you love. And if success comes along, you say, well, I'm so grateful for this and I hope I can take the opportunity to make proper use of it. And you let yourself... You're not obligated to torture yourself beyond whatever is necessary to help you learn. Right? And if you can drop that and you can accept, it's also the case, look, man, you're going to have rough times. They're coming. They're always coming. And if you're having a okay time now, then you think, okay, I'll just use this to recuperate and I'll use it advantageously and I'll accept it in good graces without thinking that somehow I'm special and deserve it. But gratitude's an excellent practice, man. Yeah. It's the opposite of arrogance and resentment. I think it's a great thing to become an expert at. And I think that you can allow yourself happiness if you're grateful.
There's something in, thank you for that. Thanks for the suggestion too. That's good for a lot of people to hear. There's something inside of us, like you always want to make your father proud. Yeah. Like there's something inside of a man, right? Yeah. Like my father's been dead for probably 20 years, but I always want to make him proud. I can feel it almost as real as if he's right
well,
there.
That's a better marker, I would say. Well, look.
Why is that tether so?
Because there's no difference between the spirit of your fathers and God. It's the same thing. Like I think, strip it of religious significance for now. The spirit of the forefathers, that's God. And you have a responsibility that you're a historical creature. You have a destiny. It's necessary for you to uphold certain traditions. It's necessary for you to follow a certain pathway. It's necessary for you to align yourself with the spirit that drove mankind forward, right? That's the spirit of the fathers. And that's, if your father loved you, he's the outflowing of that spirit and you are responsible to it, or you're responsible to something else, man. So it's a good instinct. It's a good instinct. And one of the things Carl Jung pointed out, so brilliant, he said, you don't want to confuse your father with God. You want to detach the idea of God from your father and put it above your specific father. You want to see your father as an exemplar. The love that you got from your father as an exemplar of something like the proper transcendent relationship, because that also takes you away from being just the son of your father, because you risk not growing up then, right? If you're under his thumb, if you're always looking for his approval. So you got to get that right. You got to strive forward to make the spirit of the father proud, but you also have to be an independent person, and you do that by separating out the spirit so that you're beholden to something that's above all men, right? But still real. It's like the essence. That's another way that you can conceptualize God is the essence of paternal love.
Right.
Right. And so it's the same thing, like many fathers love their son, right? So that love isn't specific to any given relationship. You could extract it. Well, that spirit is part of what's always been considered. That's the patriarchal aspect of God. That's a good way of thinking about it.
No, I love that. I think it's important for a lot of young men out there. Jordan, thanks so much, man.